Hi, I'm Dennis Morgeson, the Agent for Horticulture Education in Washington County, Kentucky. In today's Horticulture How-To series, we're going to talk about how to start seeds at home. In our last video, we talked about putting together a cheap or relatively inexpensive grow light system, as you can see here behind me. And today we're going to talk about actually starting some seeds in those areas. So first off, you're going to need something to start your seeds in. A lot of people have different things they buy to put or to start seeds in. You don't have to buy anything. You can use anything, recycled, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you rinse it with 10% bleach solution before you use it. If you reuse any of these containers, be sure you rinse those too, because you can pass diseases on from one year to the next. In most years, I will start seeds either in packs, the plastic packs that you can get from your garden centers, or you can reuse, remember, again, to wash them, and start them that way, or put your media directly in one of these trays and start them in rows and then transplant out into larger containers. Do make sure that if you are going to start these in these directly seeded in, or even in your packs, you may want to go ahead and make sure you've got some holes in the bottom of this. Definitely, if you're going to put the soil directly in this and start them directly in this in rows, you're definitely going to want to put some holes in the bottom of that for drainage, because you can get things too wet pretty quickly that way. That's one way that you can do that, and that's a lot of times the way I do that, start seeds. But this time I had a lot of these little pellets left over from years past. Generally, this is not my favorite way to start these because they do dry out whenever the plants start to grow. But this year I'm going to go ahead and use them. They're relatively inexpensive. A lot of people use them, so I thought we'd go ahead and do a video using these as well. In this particular little container, you can buy these this way. This is actually for a windowsill. You can tell by the shape of it. However, most of the time we do not get enough sun in a windowsill, so I just went ahead and decided to use these and use them under the grow light to make sure that they had enough light. Now, so if you know you want to reuse these, you can just put some Scotch tape on what variety of plants are in that little row. That's what I did, and then I just wrote in a Sharpie on there what varieties are in this one. These are a lot of different types of tomatoes and peppers in most of these. I've already got one on the under the light there. With these and with starting any of these seeds, it's good to go ahead and use one of these little domes to put on top. That just conserves moisture and also puts in or keeps you from having to water as much. It also keeps in a little heat, especially if you're in a drafty area. Maybe you don't have one of these little mats we talked about, the heat mats. These will help keep some of that heat in there. So all you do is just put that on top of that after you've go ahead and you've planted in those little pellets, and then we're just going to slide that right under our light. You can either put it under long ways, or you can go crossways if you've got enough light that way. So we're going to just do those crossways. And you can see here we've got this little thermostat here. Right now it's at 74. I just turned it down to 72 because that's plenty warm enough for most of these warm season crops. With this, we're doing tomatoes and peppers, eggplant, some tomatillos, some of the warm season crops, so they need a warm temperature to germinate. So what we're going to do with this, after we've put these on the mat, we're just going to slide this little thermostat under, remember under, not inside of the flat, under. That way we know that the temperature where that flat and that mat meets is going to be 72, and that's going to keep our little plants warm where they can germinate. I'm going to pull this out of the way here. Probably should have done it this way just to keep it out of the way where it doesn't hang down in our way with our other flats. All right, some other things. We've got these other little pellets that you can buy. These are a little bit larger. I'm actually going to set these over in this, and if you look, this has a little raised area, so these have holes in them, so the water can drain out and it can stay under the, instead of setting up and getting up into the pellet, it'll be under it if I overwater. Most of these pellets come with these little holes inside, as you can see there. Sometimes you may need to either take maybe a pencil or something and just push that little fabric away from that, and you'll make a little hole that way. So I've got several of these here, and I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that little hole is opened up. That fabric that's holds that pellet together is not in the way of the seeds. Sometimes they may not even be cut yet. You might have to tear them open just to make sure that's an opening there for those seed to grow in. Now, with these pellets, I won't finish these plants in these pellets. I'll grow the plant in the pellet, And, well, I can go ahead and do some of these. Let's do Polish Giant tomato. That was from from the tomato class I did earlier in the season in the wheelbarrow series. So I'll go ahead and put these seeds in there if I can get them out of the pack. And I'm just going to drop one per pellet. If you would like to hedge your bets and make sure you get each pellet with a plant in it, you can put 2 and then go in and maybe snip one of those plants out. I don't necessarily need 6 plants of this Polish Giant, so I'm just going to drop 1 seed in each hole, and if I get 4 out of 6, that's fine. I'm only looking for about 2 plants of each variety because I grow probably 20 to 30 varieties of tomatoes, so a couple of plants for each variety is plenty for me. But you can see there I dropped the pellet in, and I'm just going to go ahead and take a pencil and just make sure that that soil is pushed, that seed's pushed down in there. Make sure that the seed doesn't stick to your pencil, but that way you can just make sure that that seed is covered well. So I've got 6 little plants or pellets of Polish Giant planted there. And somewhere I have, here it is. So I have a little tag, and since these are in their own little cups here, I'm just going to drop that tag in there. One thing about these tags, which is really easy and cheap, these are the most inexpensive tags that you can probably have. These are just old mini blinds cut up into pieces, and then just write Sharpie on there what it is. Now, this Sharpie will not last through the season, so if you want to mark these with these, you either have to bury that, or actually, believe it or not, regular old pencil written on these will last longer than the Sharpie will in the hot sun. So once I stick that tag in there, I'll fill this flat up, and then I will go ahead and I will cover over that flat as well when I've got all of my seeds in there, and then I'll go ahead and put it on the light as well. Now, as I said, these pellets won't make it through the season to get a plant big enough for it to go in the garden, and we're looking at 6 weeks before we'll plant these outside. That's our ideal time to go ahead and start planting our warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers. So this plant, or this pellet, this seed will probably germinate in the next 4 or 5 days, and then we'll have to let it grow for a week or 2, and then it's going to be too big for these little pellets. So what I'm going to do, most years I'll just grow them on in the 4 or 6 packs, but I found if you start multiple varieties of these tomatoes and peppers in these packs next to each other, some varieties will outgrow the others and they'll smother each other out or make the other ones weak. So this year what I'm going to do is grow them in these little cells, and whenever they get big enough, then I'm going to bump them up into these little peat pellets, or these little peat pots rather, and let them grow and finish, and then I'll just plant the pot and all whenever the growing season starts. Hopefully that'll be around May the 1st or 7th, somewhere around in there. Last year we had a late freeze, so this year we probably won't have that, but I'll go ahead and I'll plant all these up, and then whenever they're big enough, or maybe even next week or the week after when we get some germination, I'll do a video and show you the plants, and then when they're big enough, we'll do a video on bumping these up into these bigger pots. And then probably by then I'll have to go ahead and add another set of lights to this, because when you bump them up in these bigger pots, it's going to take a lot more room. So another thing is, if I showed you earlier, Scotch tape, all you need, if you don't want to, or if you don't have an old mini blind, you can always just stick the Scotch tape to the side of this if it's clean, and then write on there what it is. And then if you want to reuse it, you can just pull that Scotch tape off, and you can reuse these each year. You can buy these pellets individually or in larger quantities, and then you can reuse these little packs each year. But just remember to make sure you wash those with the 10% bleach solution. Let them dry, rinse them off before you use them after that, and then you're good to go. So if you have any questions about starting seeds or tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, any of those things, you can call me at the Washington County Extension Office at 859-336-7741. Happy gardening.